So do you remember, in the wake of the murder of Sarah Everard and a series of other horrific incidents that had come to light, we decided to do an investigation into the Metropolitan Police to root out that handful of bad apples. Well, let's do a quick update on how that's going. There are currently more than 500 Metropolitan Police officers on restricted duties and hundreds more suspended while investigations are made into allegations of domestic abuse and sexual violence against them. So the idea of a handful of bad apples is looking increasingly tenuous, isn't it, when we're looking at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bad apples. And let's not forget that those are the ones where there are allegations against them. There are lots and lots of other people who commit those crimes and allegations are never made because the nature of the abuse is such that the victim doesn't feel able to come forward. And that would be easy to engender, wouldn't it, if you were a serving member of the Metropolitan Police Force? Like, I can't think of anyone more frightening to come forward and make allegations against. And then, of course, there are all the ones who've committed other crimes. Stalking, flashing, harassment, all those kinds of things. That we haven't even talked about those. There are, with allegations made, without allegations made. And of course, on top of that, there are all those who know about others who have committed or potentially committed those crimes and haven't come forward and done anything about it or said anything about it. There are those who haven't committed those crimes but who hold disgusting negative attitudes towards women, and particularly towards women who are victims of crime. Some of those may have made those views clear somewhere that we could potentially track down and challenge them, and then others will have been smart enough to not say it out loud, but women coming forward as victims would still be quite reasonably feeling like they weren't being taken seriously and that they weren't speaking to somebody who respected them and believed them. At the end of the day, it seems to me like I cannot tell you with any certainty that there are a handful of Metropolitan Police officers who are fit to do their jobs and who do have an attitude towards women that is appropriate for the important role that they have. It's not a few bad apples, it's an absolute vat of cider. And the only way that we can resolve it is to do something much more drastic than having a little investigation into it. And now whenever I say this, somebody hops on the internet and says, well, I mean, if you were a victim of a crime, I'm sure you'd be the first one to go and report it to the Metropolitan Police. And just to be clear, no, I have reported crimes over the years to the Metropolitan Police, and their response has been so poor and so ridiculous that these days I basically don't bother. And, fair play and power to those who do. And once in a while I do find the strength to go, no, come on, this needs to be recorded as a crime. This needs to be listed. What if there are other victims? It might help them if I've also come forward. But generally, no, the impact on my mental well-being of the way that the Metropolitan Police treat me when I try to report a crime is way bigger than the potential upside of something actually getting done about it, because that won't happen anyway. But what am I proposing? What I'm proposing is this, that we close down the Metropolitan Police and we replace it with a series of specialised London crime units. Now, to some extent, this already exists. If you are a victim of crime on public transport, then you go to the British Transport Police, and their reputation is actually much better than that of the Metropolitan Police. I'm not saying they're perfect, but I've had much better experiences with them, and I've always been met by them with a much more respectful attitude. And there are already units which are supposed to specialise in other crimes. But what I'm saying is we scrap the whole Metropolitan Police and do this unit by unit by unit. So we have a serious and violent crimes unit who look at murders and serious assaults and things like that. We have a specialist crime unit that look at sexual violence. And then that we can make sure that unit doesn't need to be full of heavies, does it? It doesn't need to be full of people who can climb over an assault course. It needs to be full of people who understand the impact that sexual crimes can have on victims, who are there, ready to listen, who understand the ways in which we can gather evidence and the kinds of evidence that we can use to prove and prosecute those kind of crimes, the ways that we can gather evidence. And we can also have, for example, a specialised unit who look at internet crime. Because every time I've been to the Met Police and reported, a threat being made against me online, the first response is, we don't know how to work out an IP address from a YouTube comment. Things like that. Well, these things can be worked out, and we can have a specialist unit who know exactly that. And they would also be specialised in knowing which online crimes to investigate, because we don't want, of course, every time somebody says something mean on the internet for it to immediately lead to an international investigation. But we do know that it's an absolute postcode lottery who gets their crime investigated and who doesn't. So a specialised unit could put together some clear guidelines about what constitutes an offence that they are going to look into, and what is a matter that is for the social media companies, for example, to deal with. Things like, you know, bullying and offensive comments and that kind of thing, which can be dealt with. And that unit would have, you know, a direct line to the social media companies so that they could get in touch quickly and get something taken down if it was a threat to people, and get the details of that comment or that message sent straight back to them you know, within a matter of hours. It could all be set up so much better. And other crimes as well, you know, burglaries, road traffic crimes, those kind of things. Specialist units that can jump in and challenge it when it happens. And, you know, since the Metropolitan Police is so keen on it, we could have a specialist unit whose job is to do strip searches on children, and we could put no one in that unit and not have any premises for it and not do it because it's wrong and it's disgusting. So you see, not only was I right from the beginning about the Metropolitan Police being rotten to the core, but I also have a specific and very clear solution on how we can actually deal with it in a way that would actually make it much easier for people to report crime in London, and much better responses, and make it much more likely that we would actually get something done about it. So, you know, you're welcome. Increasingly, the mainstream media is terrible at informing the public of what is really going on. I'm only able to make these videos because people are generous enough to sponsor me making them, and if you're able to be a part of that, I would hugely appreciate it. It can cost as little as $1 a month, and you'll get loads of fun bonus content and lots of extras from me, and my undying gratitude. I also massively appreciate it if you're able to like, share these videos and let people out there know what's going on.